Hello, everyone, and welcome into your twin flame reading. So, in today's reading, we'll be taking a look at the energy for the divine feminine, the divine masculine, and then the connection in general, as well as taking a look at some oracle cards. So, let's go ahead and jump in on the divine feminine. And, there's been so much heavy energy lately. So, if you feel like you've been struggling, and oftentimes it's the divine feminine that's going to be watching videos like this. If you feel like you've been struggling, know that you're not alone. With all of these retrogrades, especially Venus has been in retrograde and it just went direct on the 3rd. And Mercury's in retrograde right now. It goes direct on the 15th. So there has been a lot of that just heavy energy related to communication and all of that. So let's take a look and see what we have coming through for our divine feminine. So the push from the universe is Knight of Cups. How you're showing up in the 3D is Knight of Swords in reverse. And how you're showing up in the soul space is King of Pentacles in reverse. Your challenge is the Tower in reverse. And advice from Spirit is 5 of Cups. And the likely outcome is 9 of Swords in reverse. So as we're kind of looking at what do all of these energies mean, let's dive in here with the Knight of Cups. So the Knight of Cups energy, this is this kind of like negotiation, like artistry type of energy. So that's the push from the universe, meaning if you're having some struggles, if you're having maybe some conflict or hiccups with your divine masculine, work on compromising and diplomacy and work on how it is that you're talking about some of these issues, because it's very easy sometimes to say, well, no, this is why I'm right. And that usually doesn't go over very well. How you're showing up in the 3D, this Knight of Swords in reverse, this is about kind of lacking some focus and, a little bit of, you don't really have much direction. Maybe you've missed some opportunities. And so you're kind of sitting here in that energy of, okay, well, what's next? How you're showing up in your soul space is a little bit of this financial irresponsibility, like some greediness, maybe it's almost that air of like taking advantage of other people. And so, the soul space and the 3D is kind of a little bit murky right now. The challenge for you is resisting change and kind of like delaying the inevitable. You're afraid to let go. So the Tower in the upright is all about there's big changes that are happening. In the reverse it's that sense of you're trying to stop it from happening. So I know sometimes when we look at cards, there's out of one of the decks, the Oracle deck that I created, one of the cards is this Tower is here to protect you. So sometimes the more you fight these Tower moments, the bigger and more dramatic they're going to end up being. So there is something to be said for, if something big and dramatic is going to happen, let it play out. Whether it's related to the fact that you kind of have this greedy, like energy of exploiting people. If that's maybe the challenge there is, you're resisting change. Like you're trying to get what you want at the expense of somebody else, whether that's other connections that you have, like friends, family, or whether it's that you are projecting that energy onto the masculine. Like you have in your mind, this is exactly what this scenario, what this relationship should look like. And by God, I'm going to do whatever I can to make it happen, the way that I see it happening. So, that kind of energy will not be sustainable in the long term. And so it's like you're resisting that change. Advice from Spirit with your 5 of Cups energy is, this is a cup about like kind of sadness and loss. He's looking back at these cups that have been left behind. So some of that is that advice of it's okay to be sad. It's okay to like mourn the change that's happening. Let it happen. And then you'll be in this stage of like seeking help and recovering and healing. So this feels like it's very much in terms of who this is going to resonate with, is divine feminines who are in that very heavy chaser energy right now. So that's definitely the feeling that I'm getting here. And with this negotiation and diplomacy being the push from the universe, is, don't get so fixated on this relationship needs to look exactly the way you have it in your mind. Because sometimes there's that energy with the divine feminine of, well, if divine masculine would just understand it, if they would just, realize that we're destined to be together, and then we could just be together. And some of that is, there is I'll call it a narcissistic component there. And it's interesting because I feel like you hear about this a lot in like the Facebook groups or the chat rooms or whatever about the twin flame journey. There's a lot of questions, and I hear them, they're worded is, I'm wondering if this person really is my twin flame or just a narcissist. And worded like that to imply that all DMs are narcissists, but there's almost this element with the divine feminines of having that narcissistic tendency, or that sort of view of, if the DM would just understand, like if they just knew what I knew about our connection, then of course we would be in union. And so there's more to it than that. So this is all about pushing to find that balance, find that diplomacy, feel that sadness, and use that to spur you into healing and spur you into getting some help, recovering, getting into that hopeful space. So once you can stop controlling it, you'll be able to move into a more hopeful, optimistic space. So like I said, this energy feels like it's very much directed towards DFs that are in heavy chaser energy right now. And let's see what is happening with DMs. All right. And for the feminines who are in that chaser energy, I know it's scary, the idea of, oh, but if I back away, are they going to lose interest or whatever? And, you really need to work on the faith in the divine and surrendering that, if I stop trying so hard, it will actually make it better. So let's take a look at divine masculine. Push from the universe is 10 of Cups in reverse. How they're showing up in the 3D is the 2 of Wands in reverse. How they're showing up in the soul space is the 6 of Swords. The challenge space is the 3 of Pentacles. The 10 of Swords in reverse is the advice from Spirit. And the likely outcome is the Knight of Cups. So, and it's interesting. So the push from the universe for the divine feminine is Knight of Cups, and the likely outcome for the divine masculine is the Knight of Cups. So here, starting out in the push from the universe with the 10 of Cups in reverse, this is about family feuds. And so there's some trouble at home. And with that, this could be, I would say, the feeling from this is that it's a third party energy. So maybe the divine masculine is already in a relationship, and that's what some of this energy is about here. And so with the push from the universe being to say, family feuds and trouble at home, that's kind of that push of, get out of glossing over the problems at home just to make peace, because that's not living their authentic self. How they're showing up right now in the 3D is they're avoiding change. They're not necessarily planning very well. There's a lot of indecision, but how they're showing up in the soul space, which is, usually kind of like this next level of energy that hasn't quite made it into the 3D yet, it's a positive change, like moving on and traveling, like this one's in the boat and they're moving on. And so from this perspective, it's like moving on from these, imbalanced situations or disharmonious situations, if that's the right word. So the challenge with the Three of Pentacles, the challenge is that collaboration and teamwork. A lot of times, Three of Pentacles is seen as a twin flame card because it's masculine, feminine, and spirit. And so that's kind of that challenge, is getting into that integration, into that union, into that blissful state of blessings, with the masculine, feminine, and spirit kind of all together. So the advice from Spirit on that is Ten of Swords in reverse, which is, it's actually about learning lessons and turning a corner. One of the things we talk about a lot in the daily card pulls, that because this message tends to come up a lot, is your lessons will keep repeating until you learn them. Like, you're going to keep doing the same thing over and over until you have that light bulb, that aha moment, and actually incorporate what's being taught and changing your behaviors, changing your outcome. So with this Ten of Swords in reverse, the advice from Spirit is turn that corner, like learn those lessons. Your soul space is already kind of there, but you need to, Divine Masculine needs to push that energy into 3D, because this is where the challenge is. It's 3D not necessarily being all connected. So it's pushing this energy across into the 3D. And then the likely outcome is this, artistry, negotiation, diplomacy. So like that agreeable outcome for everyone. So it's really about, the DM is being called to stand in their truth. And that's been a huge message over this summer, is that everyone, everyone needs to work on being honest with themselves, standing in their own truth, and claiming it, saying, this is me, this is who I am. I'm being unapologetically me, and I'm making sure that I'm taking care of myself, and not in a bad way, but kind of the whole thing of, in the event of a loss of cabin pressure, adjust your own mask prior to helping those around you. So you have to have that sense of, I need to take care of myself. I can't run myself into the ground, because then I'm no use to anyone. So let's take a look at the actual connection here and see what is coming up for the connection itself. All right, so the push from the universe is the High Priestess in reverse. How it's showing up in the 3D is Ace of Cups. How it's showing up in the soul space is the Nine of Cups in reverse. The challenge is the Ace of Wands in reverse. The my gosh, my brain. Advice from Spirit is the Lovers in reverse, and the likely outcome is the Hermit. So that's interesting. So this is for the actual connection itself. So we have the High Priestess in reverse. So the push from the universe is that there's uncertainty. And sometimes this is even about like conceit and having secrets. And so within the connection, there's maybe something that's not being fully discussed. So almost like maybe one side is holding back more, or if there is that situation, if that's what's resonating, that it's the third party situation for the Divine Masculine, maybe they're not fully opening up to the Divine Feminine about what exactly is happening there. What does that mean? So the push from the universe is to have all of that come to light. So how the connection is showing up in the 3D right now, though, the Ace of Cups, that's about inspiration and love. So actually the connection is strong in the 3D. When we're talking about in the 5D, the Nine of Cups, there is that little bit of that sense of feeling disappointed. So it's almost like with the connection that maybe some of the motions are going, they're going through the motions, like from a connection standpoint, but there is some maybe disappointment at the soul level, like the connection needs some attention at the soul level. So the challenge space is the Ace of Wands, and so the challenge is that there's kind of like some promises that have been broken. some lost chances and like a lack of creativity. So a lot of times that's going to come about when one or both of the parties is very just like exhausted. So with, it seems like there's some exhaustion on the divine feminine side, like trying so hard in that chasing energy. So there's some exhaustion there. And on the divine masculine side, especially if there is a third party situation, trying to balance that, it's like both parties are just tired. So sometimes there's a lack of creativity, and it's just sort of like, yeah, that's what's going on. So it's like you end up missing some chances. Maybe it ends up leading you to kind of breaking some promises. In the advice from Spirit, the Lovers in reverse is an imbalance. So the advice, or what's coming through that Spirit is trying to warn about, is that there is an imbalance. So some of that imbalance is, that there's, I would say, this other situation that the divine masculine's dealing with, and divine feminine just keeps chasing and chasing. So there's an imbalance there in terms of what both parties are giving to the relationship. And so I would say there's also an issue of, divine feminine needs to scale back a little bit as well, just to be able to give room within the relationship for the masculine to step up a little bit more. With the likely outcome being the Hermit, that's like that period of deep introspection and like quiet reflection. Sometimes it's kind of antisocial. So there is a little bit of that sense within the connection that the connection might feel some, I'll call it loneliness, or, kind of on that journey. The connections, it's working on deepening, but it's creating loneliness right now within the connection. It doesn't mean that the flame has gone out, but it means that both parties might be feeling that it has a little bit of maybe like a heavier energy, maybe not as much of the, light and fluffy and airy type of energy as when you first hit that bubble love stage. So let's pull a couple more cards for the connection, and let's call it like a 2 to 4 month time period, and see, Spirit, what is on the horizons a little bit later for the connection. Say the 2 to 4 month time period. So kind of the end of this year. How is that going to look for our connection? King of Wands and 8 of Swords and the Emperor in reverse. So King of Wands energy is that, you're meeting the challenges there. The connection is going to be meeting the challenges, and there is loyalty. So that's good within the connection. I'll come back to the 8 of Swords in a second. The Emperor in reverse, there's a little bit of that like rigidity. But at the same time, sometimes there's also kind of a lack of control, which I think is what leads to that rigid leadership type of scenario. But one of the things, and the 8 of Swords card. So with this one, when you look at it, so she has on the blindfold. I'm seeing if it'll focus a little bit better for you here. So she has the blindfold, and there's all these swords, but she can walk out of it. It actually, in this deck, she's a little bit more trapped than she is in the regular Rider-Waite deck, but she could walk out of that. It's just that it's scary because she's blindfolded, so she can't see. Her arms are tied, so she can't move very well. And all she knows is that there's all these swords around her, all these cards are tumbling down, and it just makes it scary to move forward. But there is that underlying, that loyalty. So the connection, even if it's not this overwhelmingly strong energy, it's good, solid, like loyal, dependable energy at the base of it. And then, moving into a little bit of that kind of rigid thinking. So it looks like it might be a little bit tough still for the connection throughout the coming months. But the big thing to remember as you're looking at it is the 8 of Swords card is about, yes, there's some restrictions And, there's some anxiety because, you can tell that there's these swords around you, but there's also a little bit of that victim mentality going on of, I just can't do anything. Well, you could. It's just that you're not seeing what you can do. So let's take a look at these Gaia cards. I'll grab a couple of these and see what message is coming through. Thinking of you, a loving thought, serendipity. And then this one is the dream. Something is revealed, insight and breakthrough. So definitely pay attention to what's happening in your dream space. Maybe start a dream journal. But this thinking of you, and I would say this is kind of directed towards the feminine, since usually, like I said, usually it's divine feminines watching these videos. They are thinking of you. They're having loving thoughts of you. They really are. And, probably trying to send you some messages in your dreams, and you will get some insight there. And some of that is that insight. At some point, a shift happens where you're able to let go of this tight, clinging energy. So one of the examples, and I don't know why this had popped into my head the other day, because divine feminine, and as a divine feminine, I know what this energy feels like. It's like you're so excited and you're so happy, and it's like, well, if they would just, if they would just make different choices, then everything would be wonderful. And, almost think of it like when you get a new puppy. And at some point, like, puppies go through that stage where they are just like so excited, so full of love, but they're in your face, like they're jumping, they're, trying to lick you. And sometimes, even though, yes, you love the puppy, it's like, oh my gosh, please, out of my face, just give me a little bit of space. Yes, I love you, puppy, but I don't need to love you like right up here in my face. And so for whatever reason, that came to me the other day as I was thinking about, how divine feminine sometimes behave. I was reading a post, it was in one of the groups, and I was thinking about that as an analogy that, it's not that you don't love your puppy, but it's like sometimes you're going, oh my gosh, dog, out of my face. So the jumper card from the moon deck was a new start is coming, and then work through your fears. So again, and since this is kind of directed towards more so towards the feminine, work through your fears. So some of the fears in terms of when DF is in chaser energy, like really strong chaser energy, is there's that fear of, if I'm not doing all of this work, if I'm not putting in all of this work, they're not going to put in the work, and this is all going to fade away. So that's usually one of the big fears. Or it's the fear of, I don't want to be by myself. I can't be by myself. Like, why aren't they coming to me? Because I don't want to be alone. So those are some of the fears sometimes to work through. And when it says a new start is coming, that I would say is on the heels of, once you start to work through some of these fears, and once you start to work on transmuting some of that energy, it'll feel different within the connection. So that new start isn't necessarily like, hey, you have a new person coming into your life. It's a new start within the relationship, like a new phase. So, okay, this was the jumper card. Free yourself. It's time to take back control of your life. And I'll grab one more. Flirt. Extend your lighthearted energy to others. So with the free yourself, that I would say definitely is that chaser energy. So free yourself, like take back control of your life where you're doing the things that are making you happy, fulfilled, moving your life forward. So that's the kind of free yourself from that looping type of energy. And then flirt, like extend that lighthearted energy. So sometimes when you're deep in a chasing cycle, there's that tendency to just want to talk about the relationship, talk about, well, why, what are you feeling? What about this? What about this? What are you thinking for the future? And sometimes that gets to be too much. So if you're able to change that back into a more playful, flirty type of energy, it'll feel more comforting and enjoyable, I guess, to the DM, and that will help draw that connection closer. So those were the messages coming through. And as always, take only what resonates. Obviously, across the whole Twin Flame Collective, there's twins at all different stages. Some of them are very heavy in the chaser energy, and that's kind of the feeling that's coming through in this reading, is that it's early on when it's very heavy chaser energy, and possibly even a DM third party situation. So as always, take only what resonates and leave the rest behind. There are some other videos that have recently posted. I did one of those pick a pile videos. I'll be doing the Is This Your Person videos, and as well as the daily readings. So if you want to be alerted when those new videos post, make sure to hit the subscribe and notification. And otherwise, I wish you peace and joy along your journey. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.